What's going on, everybody? It is that time again, the Sooners Illustrated Podcast, episode 220 on this Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. Josh Callaway, Collin Kennedy with you on a Thursday. Thursdays we talk recruiting, a big home weekend coming up, Ole Miss coming into town, a big visitor list to get into. Collin has the full visitor list over on the website for VIP members. We will touch on some of the names to know on the program here today. Florida did fire Billy Napier over the weekend. Can Oklahoma take advantage? We will discuss some other housekeeping things with the current team, current roster, and we'll, of course, get into the weekend a little bit, get Collin's thoughts on the actual game itself as Oklahoma hosts Ole Miss in a huge top 15 showdown on Saturday in Norman. But a reminder, before we get started, as always, you can subscribe to Sooners Illustrated at oklahoma.247sports.com. Use the promo code SoonersPod60, all one word if you're listening on pod, to get 60% off a VIP membership for a year to Sooners Illustrated and the entire 24/7 Sports Network. Take advantage of it. We're getting into the meat of the season here, the gauntlet at the end of the year, signing day coming up in a couple of months. So a great time to jump in. Hoop season starting for any basketball fans out there coming up here in just the next couple of weeks. So a lot to dive into over on Sooners Illustrated. So make sure to subscribe, be a part of the community with us for the rest of the season into the basketball season, the winter, the spring, all that good stuff. Jump in and be a part of it with us over at Sooners Illustrated. All right, CK.
Sir.
How are you doing, sir? You came up to Oklahoma last week for some.
Yeah.
You're doing the same. It sounds like potentially today.
Yeah.
We're navigating. Next week, by the way, we go out to Tennessee. Collin is going to be there. So he'll be making the trip out to Knoxville with Tom Green and I next week. So we'll have some in-person instant reaction stuff, the two of us, CK and I, next weekend. But navigating life, I hope, over there, getting down to the nitty-gritty of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if I even make it. I mean, you've got the storms that are apparently rolling through the state of Oklahoma. So
bad.
Y'all be safe out there this weekend.
Tomorrow might be kind of gross.
Yeah. My best wishes to everybody. Hopefully we get through these next couple of days with the storms. And I mean, if I don't make it to a high school game, whatever. But also the cars are falling apart in the driveway now, and I'm just like, all right, it's that time of year for me. But we're still in the thick of football season. I'm excited for this weekend, man. Like I'm really excited about this weekend. I think we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about here.
No doubt, going to be a fun weekend. You touched on the weather. That's a definite X factor for Saturday. It looks like it's maybe moving up enough where the worst of the rain will be past before the game starts. It might still be raining, but maybe not like the heaviest part of it by the time we actually get to kick off on Saturday. It's going to monsoon tomorrow in Oklahoma on Friday. Basically, the entire high school football slate in the state has been moved up to tonight because of potential weather tomorrow. So definitely some inclement weather coming through. Like you said, everyone be safe. Hopefully it's the worst of it is through before we get to game time on Saturday. We'll get into the game a little bit later on. Also, we do want to talk certainly about the visitor list for this weekend because there are quite a few names to get into that are going to be in town for this game on Saturday between the Oklahoma and Ole Miss. I did want to start first, Collin. We touched on it a little bit last week, the potential for Billy Napier to be fired at Florida and what that could mean for Oklahoma. Well, it happened. Billy got let go on Sunday, even though they beat Mississippi State. So a very rare firing after a win. Doesn't happen very often. Obviously, mine was made up before the game.
Yeah.
So, it's a rare case.
What a sequence. I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but just how wild is that it was like, they're probably going to fire him after this game, whether he wins or loses, and then he wins.
Right.
Still do it. Crazy.
It was a wild win, too. Mississippi State in position. Tough one for our guy, Jeff Lebby and Zach Sullivan.
What are we doing there at the end of the game?
Rough.
What are we doing?
Can't be forcing the ball, Blake Shapen. But in any event, Florida did make the move. They fired Billy Napier. We'll see what direction they go. Obviously, for the next hire, that should be a pretty coveted job, you would think. Florida, the SEC. But, Collin, now that it actually has happened for Oklahoma, we talked about it a little bit last week, the potential here, a couple of guys that Oklahoma were in on that obviously ended up being Florida commits. What has been the ripple effect so far that you've kind of gathered here? Obviously, it's been a few days now. Is Oklahoma in position to kind of maybe take advantage of this? Kind of give us a little bit of the lay of the land with some of these names to note that Oklahoma could maybe circle back on and try to get a little bit of a flippage now that Billy Napier no longer the guy there in Gainesville.
Yeah, I think there are 4 names that you have to address, and I think that 3 are at least worth monitoring moving forward. And I would say one, I feel pretty safe in saying I think that Oklahoma and this individual player are set on going different directions, even with the uncertainty at Florida. So that's kind of where I'll start. I think that 4-star defensive end KJ Ford is someone that Oklahoma was heavily involved with for a long time.
Yeah.
But over the summer, things kind of went different directions. Their communication almost, it felt like it tapered off to a degree. Ford ends up choosing Florida over Alabama, Texas A&M, USC, Ohio State, a few others, and that kind of felt like that. But whenever Florida season played out the way that it did, all of a sudden, the KJ Ford discussion comes back up.
Sure.
Digging around, I wrote a full notebook on all this stuff a couple days ago for our subscribers. But the general consensus I get right now is that I don't expect Ford and Oklahoma to be a thing. I think Texas A&M and USC are already pretty well entrenched in that second recruitment, and I think that the Aggies have hosted him on campus a couple times now.
Sure.
That one feels like it's definitely out of the realm of possibility for Oklahoma, and I don't think that Oklahoma's losing any sleep over it. But the Sooners have a shot, maybe, at a trio of other guys, and obviously we'll quickly talk about Davian Gross. I mean, we've talked about this. I can't tell you how many times.
A lot. Yeah.
Too many times to count on 2 hands at this point. But yeah, I continue to get the sense that same old here. If you're new to the show, we've continued to stress Davian Gross and Oklahoma have been in contact. They've been in contact for a while, even after the Florida pledge. But there is still a financial component that's very present, in the aftermath of what those final hours looked like when Florida and Oklahoma were battling it out. I think Davian Gross also, I think that he's going to be willing to see how this search goes for the Gators. And that's kind of something that I would add on here that I've found pretty interesting is the intel that I've been gathering over the last few days has indicated a lot of these Florida commits are not necessarily all that pressed or stressed about this because they have gotten a lot from Florida already in terms of the long-term outlook that would them to go to Gainesville as it is, but also, the continuous message to a lot of these guys is Florida firmly believes they're going to get a massive hire at head coach. And then the trickle down effect from there will make Florida arguably even more enticing place to be at. And so a lot of these guys are seeing that through. I think Gross is a part of that. But I also think Oklahoma, we'll talk about this a little bit more. OU's bringing in a wide receiver this weekend on an OV in 2026. They've got 2 or 3 other names that we've talked about numerous times at receiver as well. And Gross kind of just fits into that picture. So is Oklahoma necessarily pressing all that hard right now? I don't think that they have to. I think they're still in an advantageous position on a number of different fronts. And so that continues to be the narrative that I gather around Gross. The 2 other names that we haven't talked about a ton, at least since they were in OV territory over the summer, Caden Hall, the safety, and then Desmond Green, the offensive lineman. And I'll quickly go to Desmond Green. He OV'd the June 6th weekend, if I remember correctly. I want to say he took a picture with his family at a Thunder game or something like that. And it was, it was like a big social media thing. Everyone was excited, but everything kind of just, it was what it was after that. South Carolina, Florida, I want to say Georgia was somewhat involved in that recruitment as well. He ends up picking the Gators. Desmond has said that he's heard a little bit from OU. Exactly what all that means, I don't know for sure for either party because, again, I still think we're in the feeling out process for a lot of this stuff. It's very early days. But Desmond Green has also made it very abundantly clear to a lot of folks that he plans to stay committed to Florida no matter what happens over the next few months. And his belief at this time has essentially been I don't have a plan to decommit unless the new staff comes in and says, I don't have a spot. I found that pretty interesting. Yeah. He told that to our Tyler Harden over at Swamp 24/7. And you don't hear a lot of recruits talk like that, so I do believe him in that sense. But he also made it clear, like he basically said he'd be a fool not to at least hear some schools out in the event that he's turned away from Florida. And in a hypothetical scenario, all of a sudden, there's a lot of due diligence to do in very little time. So Oklahoma could maybe be involved there, but I don't think that there's all that much going on between Desmond Green and OU. The guy that I'm keeping an eye on, though, is Caden Hall. Caden Hall,
yeah,
I've known this guy for a long time, well before his Oklahoma offer. I still remember when OU chose to go ahead and give him that offer. And, Caden ever since has been a guy that the Sooners have really liked as like a jumbo safety hybrid player who he kind of goes against a lot of what they currently have in the class, where a lot of these, these flex linebackers, maybe they're a little bit more on the undersized size, like a Jacob Curry, a Nico Jandro as a safety, a little bit more undersized. Caden Hall is 6'3", 200-something pounds. He looks the part, right? And a lot of different stuff because of that. And I think that Oklahoma's always seen him as a pretty ideal fit. Caden told me that he had been hearing from Oklahoma for months on end, even though he didn't take his official visit in Norman because he chose to commit to the Gators at that time. But it sounds like maybe some things have tapered off a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Let's see what goes on here, because again, OU only has one safety pledge by current count. They've got a lot of hybrid linebacker types.
Yeah.
Caden Hall could certainly be a little bit of that, but I also think this is someone who, if OU sees a fit at safety and they want to go back to the previous evaluation, the next few weeks could lead to something pretty fruitful for OU if it wants to go that route. So that's the summation of these four.
Yeah.
Caden Hall and Gross, long story short, feel the more likely two of the four of these Florida commits that Oklahoma was previously involved with.
Yeah, very interesting. Obviously this is, Groves in particular, like you said, we've talked about a lot, going back the last several months and beyond. So interesting to see if there's any movement there, trying to get him back. Like you said, they feel like Oklahoma's not desperate at wide receiver by any means. They've added a couple guys. We've talked about a lot of other names that they're still in the mix for in 2026. But, if that ends up working out, obviously you'd welcome it if you're an Oklahoma fan. So we'll see how that shakes out. Desmond Green, I do remember the Thunder. That was, I think game one of the finals maybe that he went to.
I think so.
It was definitely the finals. I can't remember if it was game one or game two, but yeah, pretty cool. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Obviously, this is, along with Penn State, really kind of the first really high-profile firing that we see with the new portal rules, where the window does not open right away. That's how it's been the last several years. Obviously, your coach gets fired or leaves, the portal opens immediately for 30 days, I think it was. Now, the portal does not open until the new coach is hired, which obviously is not going to happen until after the season. So it's a very different system. Obviously, in previous years, Florida probably would have got gutted this week. A lot of players would have jumped in the portal, but now that's not a thing because they changed the rule, probably for the better. But so a little different than it maybe otherwise would have been. So a lot to kind of chew on there and to keep an eye on as we go through the rest of the season, certainly. And we get into December and signing days coming up just a couple months away now, obviously in the middle to late part of December. So a lot to keep an eye on there. As far as this weekend goes, and obviously another big home game weekend. It is an early kick on Saturday. We talked a little bit about weather may not cooperate. Maybe it will. We'll see. Oklahoma weather can be certainly very tough to predict. Collin, before we get any kind of specifics, just in your summation, how would you kind of quantify this weekend in terms of, we talked about it back. The Michigan weekend was ginormous, as big as we've ever seen. Auburn was obviously very big as well. This weekend, there's still some big weekends later. You would think probably Missouri, LSU has a chance. This is an early kick. That certainly does not help. Obviously, these guys all play high school games on the Friday night before. How would you kind of, before we get into some specifics, how would you kind of quantify the weekend, though, as far as what this visitor list kind of looks like? Because I was perusing it last night a little bit. Obviously, it's on our website for VIP members.
Yeah.
Still seemed like there was a lot of talent on here that is going to be in town.
I think that it's hard to directly compare and quantify these things,
Sure.
right? But
Sure.
I give Oklahoma's front office and recruiting operations staff a ton of credit because I think this visitor list specifically is certainly on par, if not better, than the group they brought in for the SEC opener in the Auburn game. Like, I think it's,
yeah.
I mean, when you go up and down this list that we have, and I should say this too, when we're talking generics, we'll see kind of like you mentioned how many of these guys are able to end up making it because, we're talking about weather. I can only imagine what some of these airports are getting ready to look like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure that some of these folks will be driving, trying to navigate the weather. Maybe they make a call and it just doesn't work out, or that there's a flight that gets booked and it ends up getting late and it's a little too late. And like you mentioned too, and it's very important to talk about, it's like this is an 11 a.m. kick too with weather.
It makes it a little tougher logistically
on the front end. So, what exactly ends up coming to fruition, we'll see. It's tricky, but like just from an on paper perspective, man, I thought that this list was really good. Like there's some 2028s and dare I say it, some 2029s on this list.
Crazy.
I caught a little bit of flack for that, by the way, where like I listed the 29s and everyone on the board was like, I can't believe we're talking 2029. Thankfully, I think that was more just about how we're all getting older together and not me trying to do my job.
Yeah.
But we all celebrated that. But I think there's going to be a lot to celebrate this weekend, especially if obviously Oklahoma goes out and wins, because the amount of talent that's getting ready to be in the stands, I'm thoroughly impressed.
Right. On that note, let's get into some of that talent. Let's start with the cycle that we're currently finishing up in 2026. Obviously, like I said a minute ago, signing day is a couple months away, but Oklahoma's been very active, and we've kind of had 2026 stuff to talk about almost every week, really throughout the season, which is not necessarily a given when you're kind of coming up on that the cycle that's about to sign that are all in their senior seasons. Collin, what are some names in the current cycle here that are going to be in town this weekend that has your eye in particular?
All right, so let's start with Jasir Rogers, the wide receiver. Yep. We hinted at him earlier.
Penn State, right? Penn State commit.
Yep, Penn State commit. Oklahoma looking to pull off a flip here, but this is kind of the beginning of a huge, I know we say the phrase a lot, but like it genuinely will be a second recruitment of sorts.
Has he actually decommitted?
No, he is not.
Okay.
So, and I think that's a smart play by him because he's saving his spot. If the place that he originally wanted to go to makes an excellent hire, which hopefully Penn State does, that's a debate for another day. He would still have the ability to go to the place that he preferred in the end, right? But at the same time, he's still committed. He's not losing any opportunities, right? Like he's still getting to go on a nationwide tour, and that's kind of what we're getting ready to talk about. So the second recruitment kind of starts this weekend because Oklahoma's bringing him in on an official visit. This is the first of 3 and could be 4 with some of the biggest names in all of college football. Like that's kind of the caliber of secondary recruitment we're getting ready to talk about. So why I say that, OU coming up this weekend, Sooners going to bring him in for this SEC game, try to show a guy from Delaware what that would be like, especially at a place like Oklahoma. So that's going to be obviously what we're tracking over the weekend. But then out of that, he will be at Nebraska on November the 1st. He will be at Alabama November 8th. And according to our own Brian Doan at 24/7 Sports, not only are several other schools like actively trying to get onto that list currently, the potential favorite to add on to that trip slate is Miami. So potentially Oklahoma, Nebraska, Alabama, Miami. Talk about battle of the blue bloods, and so Jasir Rogers, Oklahoma's like really excited to get this guy on campus, but now like the stakes are really high with him getting to OU. And the Sooners got to capitalize on this guy's time in Norman because what lies ahead, like Oklahoma's going to have to fend off a lot of suitors, and then he's still committed to Penn State as well.
Yeah, sure. The Nebraska one is especially interesting considering that Matt Rule obviously is considered one of the heavy possibilities for that Penn State job. So you kind of wonder if there's a little bit of that. a little bit of that element of, I mean, I'm sure Jasir is not naive to that reality that is a possibility. So he goes to Nebraska. He likes Coach Rule. It's like, if they hire him, maybe that would be something that could be worked out. So that's an interesting wrinkle there for sure.
He might be killing two birds with one stone if you really think about it, one way or another.
Right.
And I'm fascinated by Alabama in this race. And Brian Doan had a good note last night on our board. It's like, Bama, the ability to sell wide receiver development over the years, even with this new staff, like they're going to have quite the pitch. And then, we'll see with Miami if they end up getting on that list, because Oklahoma and Miami, another battle. I personally love covering those. You get to talk to my guy Gabby.
Was that Alabama? Was that the OU game? I couldn't remember what date you said.
November the 8th.
Okay, so it's not OU. Okay.
That's couldn't tell you what game that is off the top.
Yeah, me neither. But I was wondering. I was a little 15th is when Oklahoma goes to Tuscaloosa.
99 awareness on you to ask that question, because I didn't even think to.
It almost worked out, but I missed by a week.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
As far as 2027, kind of perusing the list a little bit, very long, lots of big names on here. Again, full list on Students Illustrated for our VIP members. We're not going to hit every name. That would take a very long time. And also we want to save that for our VIP members anyway. For you, Collin, obviously this class is off to a great start. We've talked about that. Oklahoma really feeling great about the way they've started this class. A lot of momentum, teams playing well, good vibes all around in 2027 right now. Like I just said, long list, lots of big name players going to be in town. Some in-state guys obviously mixed in there as well. I know that you've been able to see and talk to recently. For you, where do your eyes go there? Again, we're not going to have you hit every guy. That would be ridiculous. But some of the big names in 2027 that stand out to you as far as, some serious progress could be made, or at least just some interesting wrinkles, however direction you want to take it, with the 2027 guys that'll be in town on Saturday.
Yeah, so let's start with an in-state guy that I saw last week that I'm really excited about. Samaj Stanford at Broken Arrow.
Sure.
I watched him in person play against Norman North. Man. Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with Samaj Stanford. And he's really good. Let me collect my thoughts, because I really enjoyed watching him play. He visits Georgia over the weekend, and the list of schools that he provided me, there's so many programs that are involved with this state of Oklahoma safety. It's kind of wild. And so I think Samaj Stanford is kind of where I go first. I think this one's really interesting because, Samaj Stanford to me has always kind of felt like a very real candidate to leave the state of Oklahoma. He has so many opportunities elsewhere. OU has been recruiting him for the longest time and all that. But at the same time, I mean, this guy is, Oregon and Georgia and all this stuff. He can go play anywhere in the country. What I'm interested by is the way that the safety board breaks for OU in 2027. And how does that then impact the mutual prioritization between Samaj Stanford and Oklahoma? Because I think there are a lot of really talented safeties in 2027. Samaj Stanford, obviously part of that. But if these guys start going elsewhere, all of a sudden, does Oklahoma feel more incentivized to really try to lock down this guy in state lines? And does Samaj Stanford suddenly, have more of an inclination to look at OU? I think this will be his second time that he'll be on campus for a game day visit this season.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one for OU coming up this weekend. I don't know if you had any thoughts about Samaj Stanford. I know he's a state of Oklahoma guy, but
yeah, no, I mean, like you said, really good player. Obviously, you look at and you articulated it well in the story this week, talking about him, but the level of program that are in on him and that are pursuing him gives you a pretty good idea, right? And this type of dude, you talk about, what was it? Georgia's in there, right? I mean, it's impressive. The guy
go read the story that I wrote for our subscribers, because it's all direct quotes from him, and I was like, hey, which schools are? My exact question, Josh, was which schools are recruiting you the hardest? Like, not,
Sure.
which ones are you most interested in? And the list of schools he gave me of like who's hitting him up the most. I mean, I was like, this is half the blue bloods in college football.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked, to be honest with you. And then, that earlier that day, he's tagging me being like, yeah, I'm going to Georgia this weekend. And it's just a really good reminder of like how good this guy in state is.
Sure. Because I do think that there's a natural I mean, OU fans definitely really want to keep the best guys in state. That's a given, right? There's always there's an affinity for Oklahoma guys, but I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of it maybe too, you kind of take for granted a little bit of like really good player in state, like OU will get him. Like he's a good player in the state of Oklahoma. This dude can go anywhere he wants, sort of a thing. Like it's kind of a reminder of that. Like he's not just like a good Oklahoma player. He's just a good player nationally, obviously. So that's kind of an important note there.
Yeah. So as far as others,
sure.
And it's funny we're talking about the visitor list. Our buddy Tom Lloyd, 24/7 Sports, is asking me for it, so I'm distracted. Everyone wants to know about the visitors list for this weekend.
On the site, sir.
So. Where to go next? Let's go to Crew Jones. Crew Jones, 4-star defensive end edge rusher out of the state of Utah. Miguel Chavis and Oklahoma staff, they've done a great job here, man. Like I think Oklahoma quietly might be in the lead for this guy within his recruitment. And I know that there are other staffs across the country that feel that way too, which kind of goes to show you where things might be going into the weekend.
Sure.
Getting Crew Jones on campus, I think, is huge. He's seeing a lot of other places. I want to say it's Texas, Ohio State, Washington, a few others out there that I'm having a hard time remembering. But Crew Jones, man, like we talk a lot about defensive line recruiting, defensive end recruiting under Chavis. They kind of got their guy in Jake Kroll in 2026.
Right.
Crew Jones kind of feels like the Jake Kroll of 27 to me for them, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
And I think they have done a really, really good job with Crew to this point, and I think getting another in-person exposure point with him this weekend is massive in the long-term goal of it all.
No doubt. I mean, Miguel Chavis is crushing it. I mean, we all kind of know that. Obviously, it's a guy that was a first-time position coach when he came aboard, and his position is playing extremely well. The development has been really good, recruiting well. It's not hard to see why guys are kind of glomming into that and wanting to play defensive end at Oklahoma. It's not a tough sell. I feel like right now it's kind of a machine. So makes sense.
Not at all. I'll go two more quickly here.
Sure.
One in-state guy, one out-of-state guy. How does that sound? One in-state offensive player, because I went in-state defensive. Again, we love complimentary football here on the show, as we always say. Titus Hawk. I went and watched him last week, and I'm a big fan, man. I mean, it's not hard to fall in love with a 6'7", 210, 215 pound tight end that can do a lot of stuff on the field and, the baseball background, all that stuff. Here's why I bring him up. We talk a lot about Titus, and I think that the general consumer of recruiting information naturally goes to, oh, well, he's like a big Oklahoma State guy, right? This is like Titus Hawk's second or third time in Norman for a game day this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not for nothing. I think that's a big deal. Like, I think Oklahoma at a time where like the likes of a Notre Dame are involved and some really established like tight end friendly programs are going after Titus Hawk.
Yeah.
He's at least slated to be back in Norman this weekend. And I think that's massive because, we talk about the tight ends a lot. We talk about tight end recruiting a lot. You've got that caliber of talent at tight end in state. There are a couple in state who are really good. I saw another one last week in Ben Kolar as well. I don't know, man. I just think any opportunity that Oklahoma can get to get Titus Hawk on campus out of Choctaw, like, it's a big deal for them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 6'7", borderline top 10 tight end in our class at 24/7 Sports. Yeah, I got you. Choctaw,
I knew
program. Yeah.
I knew the joke was going to be made, so why as well lean into it? You know what I mean? I haven't had my coffee yet today.
You're good.
So.
Choctaw, great program.
Yeah.
I mean, just a ton to like. A ton to like.
Yeah. I will close with something I think the fans will be very interested in. Let's talk about Taven Epps. So 2027 linebacker, the number 77 player in the country for us at 24/7 Sports, top 80 guy out of Tustin, California. Why would, Oklahoma fans care? He's committed to Texas. And not only is he committed to Texas, he has been pledged to the Longhorns since April. And we reported a few weeks ago at Sooners Illustrated that he ended up deciding, hey, I want to go ahead and take a visit to Oklahoma. It's far too early to talk flip territory, obviously, especially when you're talking about not only Texas, sure, but I think there are a number of other schools that are getting ready to host Taven Epps on campuses across the country. But Oklahoma is going to be one of them, and that comes up this weekend. And I don't know, a guy committed to Texas, OU potentially long-term pushing for a flip here, but at the same time, it's like this guy is a linebacker. You like your odds, right? Like with a linebacker specifically.
Yeah, no, for sure.
West Coast, obviously in years past, Oklahoma has been able to recruit the state of California well. Maybe there's an opportunity here to really kind of surprise some folks and garner some momentum with a highly rated player at a position the OU covets. And so not only that, he's committed to an arch rival. It's an interesting wrinkle to the weekend ahead.
No doubt. I mean, 6'4", 220. It's a top 100 player for us, just almost inside the top 75. I mean, this, like you said, Texas commits, you'd be pulling from them directly. There's a ton of intrigue there. And he's just kind of one of those that's what it looks like type of a player, and the way Oklahoma's built their program. Like you said, linebacker, that's Brent Venables' baby. We talked about that before. Like they kind of build from linebacker out defensively. So yeah, very interesting name there to keep an eye on.
If you had a 6'7" joke on the show today, you can go ahead and scratch it off your bingo card.
There you go. Titus Hawk.
I went out to the Choctaw game, and like every high school game I go to now, I have to hear that. I still don't know what it means.
I don't get it at all. I have no idea.
I don't know what it is. But like everyone is doing it. And then I went and checked Titus Hawk's like Instagram because I sent him a couple photos he could post, and his most recent caption was 6'7". I was like, all right, I got to get with the times. You're gonna keep up cover recruiting. You got to be able to be in on the. That's the struggle of the gig, man. I'm climbing up in age.
I know. We're getting old.
I'm like trying to crack these codes all of a sudden.
We're getting old. So yeah, full visitor list is over on the website. Again, use that promo code SoonersPod60. Subscribe.
Yeah, if you want to feel old and you want to see the 2029s that I didn't get to talk about, 2 2029s in state. That have
unreal, and some 2028 names of note as well on here. Yes. So it's a loaded list. Like I said, perusing it last time, looking at it right now, there's a lot of names on here, and there of course is a bunch of OU commits as well that are going to be there, like Bo Bentley among others. If you're interested in that sort of thing as well, let's do some team stuff on the back end here. Let's start with Kendel Dolby before we get into the weekend and your thoughts there. Let's talk about Kendel Dolby a little bit. Dolby popped up on the availability report late last week, Friday night, was not available and did not play against South Carolina. Played just 4 snaps the week before against Texas. Obviously, Kendel had the horrific injury against Tennessee last year, was out for the whole year, made his debut against Temple earlier this season. Brent Venables talked about it then, saying that it like almost brought a tear to his eye seeing Kendel get back out on the field against Temple. He was asked this week, there's been a lot of rumors of like, is Kendel leaving the team? Is he redshirting? What is he happening? Brent Venables, the way he put it was he's trying to figure things out. That's what Brent said at his press conference on Tuesday. Collin, the Wednesday availability report popped up last night. He's not on it, if that means anything. Brent said that he would be available this weekend. He is still practicing So he is still with the team. So this notion that he's just gone is incorrect. He is still with the team. What's your sense of the situation here? I mean, this is something that OU fans have been asking about. I think that, a red shirt is on the table for Kendel, and, what that means in the future, whether that's portal or what, can be ironed out later. But for you, what's your kind of read of the Kendel Dolby situation a little bit?
Yeah, I first of all, I just hate it for Kendel, the way that all of this is played out, right? I mean, the caliber of player and leader
Yeah, it sucks.
was before the injury and then everything that followed after that, it's just tough, and I think that's kind of where I start, where I'm just like, and I'm glad you brought it up. Like, there's this notion out there that he just quit the team and he done, all this other stuff. And it's just like, I thought it was really cool. We had some real talks last night on the board with some subscribers where it's just like, hey man, this guy has a gruesome injury.
Yeah.
He's still young. He's a young human being, goes through a gruesome injury, has to navigate everything that comes with that. And
long road back. Yeah.
Long road back and the mental challenge that can be. And then you're trying to like will your way back. And all of a sudden, all right, well, the room looks totally different. You're being asked to play a new position. There's just a lot going on. And that, that learning curve too, that comes with that suddenly can probably put you through a lot. It's just, I don't know. I think that both Kendel Dolby and Oklahoma are kind of like Brent talked about. And I'm glad he kind of put it that way. They're just trying to figure some things out because I think we all hopefully kind of know two things, right? I think we all know where this likely will go. But I also think we all know this is still relatively a fluid situation, given what someone like Dolby means to the program when he is at, his fullest self. And we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. You never want to say never especially when you are, as we say, the kid business. A lot can happen. And Kendel Dolby, like if Oklahoma and Kendel sit down and iron some things out, you never know. But at the same time, I think that Kendel Dolby's been through a lot. I think Oklahoma's navigating a lot as well. And I think that this is kind of one of those things where the next few weeks will tell us plenty about the direction that this is headed. The idea that it's as finite as a lot of people are saying, I think neither of us are in that boat. And I think a lot of fans out there are with us too, in that it's nowhere near the end all be all people are making it out to be. But at the same time, hopefully all of this stuff gets ironed out between the two parties, because I'm pulling for them both in a kind of a tricky situation.
For sure. Brent Venables loves Kendel Dolby. He's talked about that before. Big fan. I mentioned he talked about it at the Temple game. He almost got choked up seeing him get back out on the field. Long road back. It's tough. I mean, we talked about that with Jaden Gibson too, right? It's tough. You have a brutal injury that you had for a long time. It's hard to work your way all the way back to get back on the field, and the kind of just the mental fortitude that takes. After not just like an injury, but like a big one like that, where this is going to take a long time. I may not be the same when I get back. Like it's hard, right? So we'll see what happens there. I don't think anything is settled. I mean, like we said off the top, him maybe being done for this year and redshirting the year is probably very possible, or I don't know, likely maybe even. But him not being back next year, I don't know if that is not a given. I don't think, so there's a path to maybe, he comes back refreshed in the spring and maybe has another go at it here. But we'll see. We're all pulling for him. Everyone likes Kendel Dolby, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. And the harsh reality too for Oklahoma is that they have other guys at Cheetah right now that are playing awesome, and so they don't need to push it, right? And Kendel sees that too, like what Kendall Daniels is doing, what Reggie Powers is doing. Like there's not much of a need, even if Dolby was at full health right now, for him to be on the field a lot, right? I mean, his role was getting diminished a little bit because of other playing well.
Yeah, and the move to corner, like the kind of the shift to corner and like the stuff that came with that too, I think plays a role as well.
Some of these young guys, Cortland Guillory and Jordan, like playing well. Jacoby Johnson. I mean, it kind of, so we'll see how it all shakes out. I want to make sure we got that out there with Dolby, and again, pulling for him. We'll see how that shakes out the rest of the year, and if maybe they can figure something out to get him back at Oklahoma and back kind of fully to himself. Because even when he did play this year, he didn't look quite like the same guy, which is, again, fair. He was out a long time, injury, all that. So pulling for him, though, as he navigates the rest of that and just figure out his best path forward for his career. As far as the weekend goes, the actual game itself, Oklahoma's playing Ole Miss. We'll have the game preview tomorrow, as always, on Friday. Collin, this is a huge game, obviously. They're kind of all big at this point in the year. We're going to keep saying that every week, like huge game, big opportunity, and that's certainly the case here. A top 15 matchup. It is an early kick in Norman. I would think the crowd will still be really good. We kind of touched on the weather, maybe an X factor. It might be a rainy day. Maybe we'll see what happens when we actually get there. For you, what's kind of your thoughts on the actual game itself this weekend, and what's kind of the key matchup within the game, or just the key thing Oklahoma needs to do to win? Where your eyes go when you kind of look at this matchup as far as Oklahoma hosting Ole Miss on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, the game preview is going to cover a lot of this stuff, and so make sure to tune in for that. But for me, I think that the natural inclination is Brent Venables versus Lane Kiffin. Sure. That being said, I'm really excited about this game. Like I have been looking forward to this one because I think in some ways this Ole Miss team is a lot better than the one Oklahoma saw last year, and in some ways I think Ole Miss is not as good in some areas of the field as that Ole Miss team that we saw a year ago. And so this is another game. I know I said it last week, but for me, it's like there's some variance here. Now, the weather, I think, is what fascinates me, because if it is raining and that hinders Ole Miss' ability to spread the ball around, all of a sudden, if you can somehow get Ole Miss a little bit more, if not one-dimensional, maybe a little bit more predictable to counteract the weather, then this Oklahoma defense has a chance to, really put its foot down. And so the weather is a layer for me as far as the offense and the defensive battle that everyone's talking about. I'm more curious about how the weather impacts Kiffin versus Venables. I just want to see what this Oklahoma offense does. You asked me, like, what's the key matchup to go win the game? Whatever Oklahoma's offense is capable of doing, because
Sure.
I mean, if they don't show up, then it goes without saying in any game. But in this one specifically, against not only a offensive mind like Lane Kiffin, who's going to go try and put points on the board. Trinidad Chambliss is really fun watch at quarterback right now. Mm-hmm. I enjoy watching this Ole Miss team when they're at full strength. If they look that way, well, then all of a sudden we're talking about Oklahoma's offense, arguably for like the first time this year, being asked to go score 30 plus points in an SEC game.
Yeah.
Can they do it? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I think they can. I think they can. But what does the weather mean for that effort? Ole Miss lost some key pieces on defense from a year ago, but at the same time, they're not slouched on that side of the ball. Now the rush defense is a little suspect. So can you get the ground game going, especially if it gets a little mucky out there? I'm fascinated by this game, man. I'm really looking forward to this weekend for a number of different reasons, but just kind of like the weird layered matchup of a top 15 game like this. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun watch.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. The early kick and everything kind of stinks. You'd like this to be maybe under the lights, but I still think OU fans will be up for this, and it'll be a great crowd, and we'll see the weather. Keep bringing it up. That's kind of the X factor that everyone's kind of checking the radar every day, and the forecasts of like what's it going to actually look like when we get there on Saturday. Like I said, I think it's looking a little better as we get closer to it, but very real chance that it's a sloppy game on Saturday. For you, what do you actually think is going to happen? What's your pick? Final score prediction for Saturday, Oklahoma and Ole Miss. OU is a pretty healthy favorite, which is kind of surprising-ish. I'm not surprised they're favorited, but I got 5.5 right now looking at it. That's kind of big for a top 10 team coming in.
I'll go ahead and say it, and you can include this in the little piece. I was shocked. That the line was as big as it was. But like 5.5? Really? This Ole Miss team, if there's no weather involved, which I think is kind of what's baked into the line a little bit, this Ole Miss team can go put points out there now.
Sure.
I don't know. I was really surprised by like how much of a separation there was. I could see Oklahoma being the favorite, obviously, but I don't know, man. Now up to 5.5. It's pretty surprising to me. I will take Oklahoma to win the game, but I will take Ole Miss to cover the number just because, especially if the weather's clears up, like it feels like this is going to end up being a really close game.
Sure.
A little bit of a battle. At one point, I was prepared to pick Ole Miss, and then the weather stuff came up, and I saw Oklahoma's offense show some encouraging stuff in the ground game.
Sure.
So with all this stuff in mind, I think I'm going to go Oklahoma wins the football game 30-27. 30-27. I'll say some field goals maybe mixed in there, especially if the weather clears out a little bit and these kickers get an opportunity to get up there, because I think that these offenses could stall out a little bit against these defenses, but could see OU hitting that 30 mark that I was hitting at earlier, and I'll take the Sooners to win 30-27.
It's like the same thing with Tate Sendell, maybe a bit of an X factor this weekend. He's been so good. It'll be interesting. It'll be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it as well. And it's one of those kind of gateway games as far as if Oklahoma wins, you're looking at the rest of the schedule like, man, 9 wins is very realistic. That might be good enough to make the playoff. Whereas a loss, it's not over by any means, but you're kind of like, man, uphill battle to get to that 9-win mark if you drop this one. So
I think the interesting layer to this, and I saw this floated out there a couple of times now, some people are calling this a playoff elimination game for both of these teams. I don't know that that's 100% true, like you mentioned.
Yeah, not literally. I mean, if Oklahoma were to win out, so.
But at the same time, it is also kind of a testament to seemingly the stakes of this specific
Now,
matchup.
Ole Miss, I did HQ this morning with Chase Parham over at our Ole Miss site, and he brought up Ole Miss's schedule. Take a gander at it if you haven't seen it. Very different than OU's. It's cake the rest of the way. So while that's good, they can get to 10 wins. They're not going to have the wins that OU will have if they get to 10-2, but their only losses were like the 2 best teams they played. A little bit of a tougher sell. So this is a huge game for them. If Ole Miss wins this game, they feel like a borderline lock. I mean, they could always blow it. We've seen them blow it. They did it last year where they were in position, but they're in really good shape if they win. So this is a huge opportunity for them, obviously. So we'll see. Going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it on Saturday. We'll have the game preview tomorrow with James Jackson, Tom Green, and myself. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow afternoon, Friday afternoon, both on the YouTube channel as well as the podcast feed. Collin and I will be back next week, next Thursday, to hit on some other recruiting stuff. We'll get into the Tennessee game a little bit. Again, Collin's going to be out there in Knoxville. We're looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun weekend out there in Tennessee for what should be a really fun game, Oklahoma and Tennessee next weekend. So we'll get into that a little bit next Thursday. Game preview tomorrow, full game day coverage, obviously coming from Norman on Saturday. But that's it for now. CK, appreciate you as always. Safe travels up here. Trying to get back up to Oklahoma for some football tonight, potentially. Hopefully weather cooperates the next couple of days for everyone.
Hopefully.
We'll see how it goes.
Hopefully. I'm looking forward to it. Again, y'all be safe out there. Enjoy the game if you make it out there. And
stay dry.
Bring a poncho.
Bring a poncho. That's it for now.
Are you on the sidelines real quick? Are you a poncho guy, a trash bag guy? Okay.
No, I'll have a rain jacket for sure. If it's pouring rain, I may have to I have a rain cover for the camera, but it gets stressful when it's just pouring rain. I may have to put the camera away and go hide. We'll see. If it's light rain, we can battle through, but if it's like dumping rain, may have to make a business decision. We'll see though. We'll see.
I may have to get you like a Yankees poncho or something.
Yeah.
Christmas.
Pinstripe poncho. That would stick out on the sidelines a little bit. I think everyone would. Who is that guy down there? That's it for now. We'll be back next week. For Collin Kenny, I'm Josh Callaway signing off. We'll see you next time right back here as always on Sooners Illustrated.